So what is a showrunner and what do they do? Let's just get right into it. I think the easiest way to describe it is to first talk about feature films, because feature films usually don't have showrunners. They have directors. And we kind of understand what directors are. They're in charge of sort of the whole creative vision of the project. They're the sort of highest ranking creative person on set. Everything goes through them creatively. They make all the wardrobe and the acting choices, and in post-production, they'll make a bunch of the editing choices, hopefully, if things are going well. And the only people they really answer to other than themselves is the money people. So like the studios or the financiers, that's a director. Let's talk about TV now. So directors still exist in TV, but they have sort of a different role. They're sort of hired in to work on specific episodes. And so yes, they have the creative choices and they have all the working with actors and stuff that they normally would, but there's usually at least one creative person on set outranking them, above them, and that person is usually called a showrunner, which is not like a real term actually. It's not like, if you look in like the guilds and stuff, I don't believe showrunner actually exists. It's usually executive producer or co-creator or creator. That's a real job. A showrunner is sort of just the person that's in charge, but they have a different, it's usually the executive producer. And so, yes, the director will be making choices, but the executive producer has the ability to either make additional choices or outrank them. And that's because the executive producer or the creator is the show creator. They wrote the pilot script typically. Once the show actually went to, got commissioned, they had to hire the writing staff. They run the writer's room. They're the last say in, the scripts that get made. And then they have to go to set and they have to sort of enforce all the scripts on set. And so the reason why sort of the director has somebody outranking them on set is to, you need somebody with like the 10,000 mile view, where, the director is focused on the episode, the showrunner, or at least, high ranking producers, or even just staff writers that are brought to set are not only enforcing sort of story beats and dialogue on set next to the director, but they're also, they're taking notes, they're keeping track of stuff that happens in the show, in the shoot, and how that affects scripts down the line, stories down the line, in case something changes either direction, either on set or, in the writer's room as things develop. A lot of times, that's the showrunner. So it's weird, it's complicated, because the showrunner is basically the big boss of everything, but it's not really a role. It's sort of like a role you just sort of accept. Usually it's the show creator, but in a lot of cases, if you have a low ranking or an inexperienced like writer that the show was bought from, the studio will sort of hedge their bets after they've made the pilot. So once they start going into series, they'll probably keep on the creator of the show who wrote the pilot and will probably be the head writer enforcing the writer's room, but they'll bring somebody on top of them or bring somebody parallel to them as a showrunner or a co-showrunner, which is usually a company person who knows the network or the studio and has been a showrunner before, to mentor this new writer, this new creator of a show, in what being a showrunner is, because it's such a complicated and sort of abstract set of jobs. The expectation being, this extra person, we have the creator here who is typically a writer and typically, this is their baby. And this other person is brought in basically to mentor them, but also they might not be a creative showrunner. They could just be like an administrative showrunner, but they could also be like an elder creative showrunner. They needed an assignment because they owed the studio a favor and they didn't sell this show. So they're just in to sort of just run the show for running the show's sake. Yeah, so a lot of times they're just co-showrunners. But it's different all the time. And so all these titles, these people again tend to be, executive producers. That's their actual title. A lot of times they're called head writers. And what's crazy is the idea of a showrunner itself is sort of a new, like the term has been around, but it's sort of like a new idea of like the celebrity showrunner. I think the most famous celebrity showrunner of all time, Lorne Michaels. He's the creator or the co-creator of SNL, and he's the showrunner. Everything, stops at him. A little bit more up to date, Tina Fey, especially when she was on 30 Rock. She was the head writer, but she was also the showrunner of the show. She was the creator of the show. Basically, ironically, in 30 Rock, playing the Lorne Michaels character in her story. A little bit more recently, if you've heard of Dan Harmon from Community or Rick and Morty, he was a showrunner. He's like a celebrity showrunner. He's usually the creator or the co-creator of the stuff he works on. But then when it comes to actually running the show, he runs everything. He runs the creative room. He runs the set. But it's not exclusively necessary. A lot of times depending on how complicated or how fast the show goes, the writing staff will come to set and sort of fill in as the showrunner character, showrunner, position on set. But it's not strictly necessary. There's a hierarchy in the writer's room too, which is its own beast, but usually there's a head writer. Sometimes that's the showrunner or the creator of the show, sometimes it's not. SNL, again, as an example, Michael Che and Colin Jost are currently the co-head writers of SNL, not Lorne Michaels. And so, yeah, it's wild. It's very complicated, but yeah, showrunner, a made-up title that, the most senior creative person assumes once they're on a show, and that's kind of what it is. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next time.